Yes, guys, I want to say thank you very much for getting on the podcast. And yeah, I'm here with Dave Furness. Absolutely amazing bloke. He's my guy. He's helped me in so many different situations. He's helped me be able to talk about problems that I'm facing. He's also empathized with me on many different ways. And he's been there for me. And that's the whole reason why he's on this podcast. And he is a massive advocate for mental health. He's helping a lot of people. He's helped me. And I can definitely say that when I fully needed it, he's just there listening to me, or he's said the right things that kind of put me in the right place when you're stressed out. But today he's going to be talking about some experiences, some tips that are going to help you. He's just here to not tell you anything, but just like speak to you about like mental health, man. Like it's a broad thing. It's massive, and it's the forefront of everything right now, in my perspective. Like if you don't have your mental right, then you just not you won't be in a good place. And I feel like the more and more I've been speaking with Dave, more and more I've learnt more about myself, to be honest, from even trying, almost crashing and burning from work to now being someone that really takes time out for myself and the family as well and everything. So I'm not even gonna lie, he's helped me a lot, and he's here to come and chat to you guys. And yeah, you got the floor, bro. I just want you to go.
Mate,
Go,
I
man.
was just mesmerised by your incredibly kind words. Thank you
Bro,
so much.
I love you. That's why
I
you're
love you
here,
too,
man.
buddy. I
So
love you too. And firstly, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Absolute pleasure. And yeah, it's I just to hit on what you said there. I think mental health is really at the forefront of a lot of everything that's going on in the world right now. It has been for a long time, but it's also had a stigma around it. It's been sort of the elephant in the room that nobody talks about, because especially amongst men, it's been weak to talk about feelings and to be vulnerable, and you have to pretend that you've got all your stuff together and everything's fine and you've got broad shoulders and you're going to carry the weight of the world on them. And I think the fact that we're seeing depression and anxiety and suicide rates amongst men at an all-time high is not an accident. It's because of the unhealthy way that, we've never been told that we can talk about our feelings. We've never been told that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. And a lot of the work that, I do now is from, because of my own experiences. I truly am a sort of, my purpose came about because of the trials and tribulations that I went through with my own mental health battles. And, yeah, I truly believe that, going down the rabbit hole, so to speak, of trying to figure out why I became depressed, why I was battling anxiety and had all these dark thoughts, trying to understand why has really led me down to some interesting places with research and fantastic conversations with many different people. And I do think in the next few years, we're really going to see a reframing of mental health. And I think that's crucial right now, because I think as mental health is currently framed, it's seen as a disease, a disorder, as something's wrong with you. And I don't think that narrative really helps anybody.
no.
So yeah, absolute pleasure to be here, bro. Thank you so much.
Cool, man. So when is it that you noticed that you had mental a mental situation that that had to be addressed?
That's a great question. I think I probably first was aware of it was probably when I was maybe 27, 28 years old. But and to put this in perspective, like, I know you know this, Theo, but for anyone listening, like, I ran successful online businesses. I had an apartment in Manchester city centre. You know, I worked online. I could travel around the world. You know, I was living the life that a lot of people said that they wanted. And I think I used that as basically an avoidant tool, because I would still be struggling with happiness internally. And I'd be like, well, I can't be depressed because I've got everything that my life's pretty good, right? I can't be depressed. So I just try and like push it under the rug. But I think you asked about when it first became very apparent. I don't remember the year as such, but I do remember it was Christmas. And I hate telling this story because it sounds like the most privileged first world problem in the world, right? But I was in the middle of the Caribbean Sea on a cruise ship, and I was having a full-blown anxiety attack because I couldn't work. I had my laptop with me, I had my phone with me, but we're in the middle of the sea. There was no signal, no data, no internet, and the onboard internet on the cruise ship wasn't working. And in my mind, like, this was the first time since maybe in 5 years I'd been forced to turn off, if you know what I mean, been forced to not constantly have a phone or have a laptop. Or, no matter where I've been in the world, I've always been able to find internet or have data. And I've always been able to be connected. I've always been able to check Skype, check my emails, check work, see what's going on. And this was the first time in maybe 5 years of starting my own business that I'd not been able to do that. And I look back now and it sounds ridiculous. Like, I had a team of people. I have a business partner who were all very capable of running the show without me there.
Yeah.
But something in my head was telling me, no, something's gone wrong. You need to be there. And it was at the moment where I was having like an anxiety attack and like properly like panicked breathing. I could feel like, heart was beating fast. And I'm looking around and I'm seeing like people sunbathing on sunbeds. It's like 30 degrees and beautiful blue sea and all the food that you could possibly want. And everyone's having a great time except me. And I'm panicking because I can't check my emails or check Skype. And it was at that moment I was like, something's wrong here. Like, this is not normal. I basically, at this point, acknowledged that I was somehow addicted to work in like a workaholic frame of mind.
Yeah.
And of course, like the next day, like I managed to cope and get through it and realize that I'm powerless in this moment. The next day, I think we landed in Jamaica and I found a bar that had Wi-Fi logged on. No emails, no messages. I was not missed in any way. Nothing had gone wrong. It's Christmas anyway. Very few people are working.
Yeah. And
it was in that moment I went, right, there's an issue here. And then I didn't do anything about it, obviously. Because, again, I refused to admit that there was a serious problem. Like, I got back to the UK and it was business as normal. But that was the first time I was properly aware and, like, I'd had a serious response.
Yeah.
And then a few years after that, and there was numerous reasons why this happened. Like, again, with the relationship I was in and the life that I was going down was not the one that I thought that I should have been going down. And then work stresses as well. It just sent me down a depression sort of spiral where I couldn't really see a way out of it. And that was the first time when I'd like I said, I've spoken to people with depression before, but I could never properly relate to them. But this was the first moment where I'd experienced what a lot of people had described as their brain turning against them. And like, my head was telling me that nobody cared, nobody liked me, nobody would miss me if I wasn't here anymore. And it was in that moment I was like, okay, yeah, this is not good. And after a lot of persuasion from people in my life, I went to go and see a therapist. And I would say that I very quickly, I'm going to use the word recovered, because some people say that they don't think you can ever recover from depression. I think you can. I think depression is a response to something going on in your life. Yeah. And I think I'm very fortunate in that I acknowledged that quite quickly. Like, I realized that I hadn't always been depressed. So therefore, I'm not always going to be depressed. Just something is
100%.
wrong right now, and I need to fix that.
Yeah.
And that's a key awareness for everything that I do now, is sort of a trauma coach and being trauma informed. But yeah, I do think I recovered from it relatively quickly because I was able to throw myself into it pretty full on. Like I had the luxury of being able to change my environment very quickly. I was able to spend days, weeks, months researching this, finding out, educating myself more. I know more about neuroscience now than I ever did going through school.
Yeah.
Purely because I was like, okay, I need to, I'm just a curious person. Like, I want to know why things work. I want to know why things happen. And I think that for me was a big thing. And that's what really led me down this path to wanting to get to the bottom of my own stuff and then help others do the same.
Amazing, bro. Like, seriously amazing. Like, obviously I've never been through what you've been through, but just like some of the things that you've mentioned, it just brings me back to when I remember I used to think in specific ways. But like, I think you are right. There is recovery in my perspective, because you're not born like that. It's just over time you started to think that way depending on your situation. But your situation can change. All you need to do is change your environment, change the people you're around, change what you eat, change what you do, and change how you think. And then over time, once you change that into positive thoughts and actions and places, environments, things change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was one of my biggest issues with the state of mental health, not just here in the UK, but globally. And I understand why it is, and I'm not slagging off the NHS at all, but if you go to a GP and say that you think that you're depressed, they do not have the time to sit down and do an hour's worth of counselling with you then and there to get to whatever the problem is.
Yeah.
Instead, they can write you a 5-minute prescription for some antidepressants, which may or may not help.
Real talk.
So that is, I understand the NHS is stretched. It's overutilized and underfunded, and it's very difficult to get any sort of therapy through the NHS. And if it is, you're like on months-long waiting list, which when somebody's having suicidal thoughts, that is deadly. Like, you're deadly. Potentially messing with people's lives. And then you're giving them prescription tablets, which have some of them have side effects of suicidal ideation. So, I know, madness, right? So it was at this point where I'm like...
Makes no sense.
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense to me either. So I always was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I understand for a very limited number of people, there are abnormalities within the brain which cause chemical imbalances, which can cause neuroceptive responses to be not normal. That is in the very, very, very minority of cases, like less than 5%. The vast majority of people with who are suffering with some form of depression have not... Well, nobody's born depressed. Let's get that out there first.
Period.
So it's not a genetic disorder. And, the people who do have, again, a medical diagnosis or some sort of thing which is which leads them to be more predisposed to these things is very, very, very low. So giving everybody this blanket, take some tablets, you might feel better, I didn't buy into.
I wouldn't buy into it. Like, even till this day, I've got... honestly, I don't take I don't like to take tablets or anything like that. But like, even down to hay fever, I just don't like it. Like, I just think if there was something out there, God would have put it there. And I'm not like super spiritual in a sense of like, gods and this, that, and the other. But I do believe in God, but like, I don't believe in just the standard stuff that people put out there. But I do believe that if you want anything, you can get it on this earth. It's already here. And if you need to do something to get it, you can do that. And it's like a herbal medicine that will be able to look after you. And if it's mental, then you've got people that are around you that are going to help you lift you up.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a whole argument. I mean, I'm with you. I genuinely believe, and I've seen it firsthand, like the effects of herbal remedies and herbal medicines on ailments. And you go back to like Tibetan medicine, Chinese medicine, and you look at these like 100-plus-year-old Chinese people who've, never taken a chemical substance in their life, and yet in the Western world, it seems like the big pharma companies are trying to debunk that as witchy voodoo nonsense, which doesn't work. It's like, well, of course they're going to tell you that because they want to sell you a pill.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole other story. But yeah, I'm with you. I genuinely think that a lot of, if the earth can bring you disease, it can also bring you the cure. The duality of the world, light and dark, illness and wellness, they sort of all go together. But for me, like the narrative that a lot of people were told for a long time is there's a chemical imbalance in your brain and that's why you're depressed. I don't get me wrong. Yes, there is a chemical imbalance, but where does that come from is the better question.
Yeah.
Because like if you go out in the sunlight for a day, your vitamin D levels are going to increase.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's chemically imbalanced now? If you go to the gym for an hour, your dopamine levels are going to increase. Is that an imbalance? So it doesn't just imbalance by itself.
Yeah.
The root cause is not the chemical imbalance. The chemical imbalance is a symptom of something else.
Yeah.
Just like depression is a symptom of something else.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's a lot of what I do is help people get to the root cause, which I know we've spoken about very before with your own experiences, and I've shared my experiences with root cause. And it's when you get to that root cause, that's where the healing can actually happen.
Yeah.
Because you're carrying around a belief or an emotion or a story that you're telling yourself, which is holding you back and causing you pain.
Yeah.
Like if you are, even if together right now, everyone listening to this, you sit there and you try and think about a time when you were feeling anxious. Like, again, if somebody's scared of flying and they get on a plane and it's about to take off, their body reacts in a fight or flight response, which leads to cortisol being released in the body. Cortisol is largely a poisonous substance. If the cortisol is around for too long, it does damage to the body. But in the moment of fight or flight, it also gives you the ability to react quickly. It's trying to save you. But the same thing is, even if nothing is happening now, if you're just trying to recreate that feeling in your head, you can make cortisol release in the body. Yeah. So by getting to that root cause and dealing with whatever that is, you can stop that fight or flight response from having an impact on your life. Yeah. And it's that trauma response, which is for me, which I think is going to be a large key to mental health studies and mental health wellness in the next few years. Things like polyvagal theory talk about it fantastically well. Dr. Stephen Porges, Bessel, van der Kolk, and his The Body Keeps a Score book talk extensively about the impact of trauma on mental health, things like PTSD, anxiety, and depression. That, I believe, is where the future is heading with mental health. And it really can't come quick enough, because you look at, we really need trauma-informed schools, trauma-informed governments, trauma-informed police forces, trauma-informed prison systems, and that is going to change the world. But in order to get there, we also need to trauma-inform the public, the population.
Yeah, definitely. How would you see something like that roll out? I know that's a big question, and I don't know how the structure or the levels would be. But how would, just from your perspective, because obviously you're more deep into it than I am.
It's a big ask. It's a big ask, and everybody who's watching this, I would urge them to go and check out the Compassion Prison Project, which is run by a fantastic lady called Fritzi Hoffman, a Grammy Award-winning producer. I actually got to speak with her last week. And
what was that called again? So I'm just going to write it down.
Yeah, of course. I can put it in fact, there's a great video. The project is called the Compassion Prison Project. Yeah. But for anyone watching or listening to this, type into YouTube "Step Inside the Circle," and it's a fantastic video, like I said, run by Fritzy, which highlights the level of childhood trauma in the prison population. And she's really aiming to get a trauma-informed approach to prison and prisoners, because she makes the argument that instead of asking or labeling someone as bad, like this is a bad person, or asking those kinds of questions, instead of saying things like, why did they do that? The question is, what happened to them? And all of a sudden you see, like, there's so many studies out there that look at the brains of murderers and rapists and things, and you see that due to the trauma they've had, their brains are developed in a very different way. And their elements for compassion and empathy are much smaller, and the parts of their brain that react very quickly are much bigger. And it all can stem from a childhood trauma. So instead of looking at things in prison, like prisoners, and saying, like I said, why did they do what they did? We ask the question, what happened to them? Let's find out about what happened to them as a child. And all of a sudden, like I said, watch the video, step inside the circle, it's fantastic. And I think we just need more people like Fritzy. Fritzy's, like I said, running a compassion prison project. She's looking to take it international. It's just in America at the minute. But we need more awareness of this in schools. Now, I know in schools they have, counselors and things and it's very difficult, because if you suspect that a child is in a traumatic environment with traumatic parents, the legalities around trying to do something about that is very difficult. But something needs to change, because if you want to avoid traumatized adults, you need to avoid traumatized children.
Children, yeah. 100%.
So I honestly don't know, like, right now what the answer is, other than, like, for me, it's obviously trying to heal the traumas in adults. And a lot of the fantastic people that I talk to, both clients or just other people in the mental health space who get this, who understand polyvagal, who understand attachment theory, who understand the impact of trauma on the nervous system and brain development. You're now having children as young as 4, 5, 6 years old who feel safe and comfortable telling you what they're feeling, telling you what's happened. I now know I know of like 5 and 6 year olds who could say, I'm feeling really angry right now. And, rather than just lashing out and like kids do, throwing a tantrum, they're verbalizing it, going, I'm feeling this way. And then you can say, okay, that's okay. Why do you feel that way? Because of this. And all of a sudden you're bringing them an awareness to what is potentially traumatizing to them as a child. Yeah. And I think the more that we are a trauma-informed society, we bring a lot more compassion, we bring a lot more empathy to the topic of mental health. We take it out from the shadows, we have it front and center. Just like if you broke an arm, you can't hide it. You go to the hospital, I've broken my arm, can you fix it? Just be like, this thing has happened and it's traumatized me and I need to talk about it. Like that should be as open a conversation as anything else.
Yeah, I totally agree. Me and Cassie are like that with Barley, to be honest. Literally, we've got these cards, these square cards with like different faces. Some crying, some angry, some happy, some excited. And then we've got it on the fridge and we'll be like, which one are you today? Or like throughout the day when she's like annoyed or something, we'll be like, which one are you? And then she'll like explain, and then we'll be like, oh, what's wrong? And then sometimes she'll tell us, sometimes she won't. It all depends. But like, yeah, I think...
Did ice cream for breakfast? Well, fortunately we can't always do that.
Yeah. But like, I think you're opening my mind to a lot of that stuff as well, to be honest. I totally agree with you. But I think making it as widespread as possible is going to be the tough part, isn't it, really? It's just,
absolutely. I mean, and we've seen this recently with Black Lives Matter, with the George Floyd protests. It's like, it's tough because, again, I'm not saying that all police are bad. I'm not saying that all black people are saints. I'm not saying that all white people are saints. Like, we've said this before. I think we said it in your thing. Like, there's one race, the human race, and there's good people, and there's traumatized people.
Yeah.
I don't believe there's bad people. There's just people who've had bad things happen to them.
Yeah.
And often through no fault of their own.
Exactly.
When they didn't have any agency to, to have control of themselves. Like often when you're a kid, you have a caregiver who's supposed to be safety for you, often a parent. And when they are not safe, you are literally taught, I'm alone. I'm on, nobody's going to look after me. I've got to look after myself. And that's traumatic to a child. So I think when we look and we see there's a sheriff in Flint, Michigan, who, when all the riots were the protests were kicking off in Michigan around George Floyd, he came out and was like, I'm here. I'm listening to you. What do you want? And they said, march with us. So he put his stuff down and he marched with them. That is a trauma-informed police officer who is going, these people just need to be listened to. And me as a police officer, that's my job. I'm here to protect and to serve. And these people are telling me something's wrong and I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to be with them because this is a community. And then you see other police officers who are battering people around the back of the head for walking down a street. Not trauma-informed, causing trauma. And I think that's the key difference right now. We need more officers. I don't remember his name, but he was a legend, and we need more people like that. The officers who are kneeling with the protesters, basically saying, I'm with you, I'm listening to you, I'm having compassion for you.
Yeah.
Like when you look at the word compassion, if you break it down, it literally means with suffering. Let that sink in for a minute, because that is effectively what compassion is. When you show compassion to someone, you're saying, I am suffering with you. I'm feeling your suffering and I'm choosing to be here with you. You're not alone. And that is a powerful thing. That's what we need, more compassion in the world. We need to see those people who need help and to be there with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of trauma-informed people in the world is going to bring, much more compassion.
I think I watched a video, or it was a conversation with you, and you was talking about, obviously with the police, in terms of the training itself, that they need to be able to, their training should come alongside psychology and being like a trauma enforcer to a certain, not enforcer, but someone that actually helps understand trauma, to see the other perspective rather than just saying categorize, or just having a shit day and then just wanted to just kick off and then just take someone's head off. So
that's, you think about what a policeman's or police person's police officer's role is. I'm sure in the UK, if you ask them, they'll say 90% of it is counselling, some form of counselling. Like you are going round to sort out a minor disagreement, somebody's annoyed with somebody else for doing something, and they literally go and diffuse the situation. It's the other 10% where it turns into something more physical, and it seems that in those instances all sort of trauma awareness goes out the window, and it turns into us versus them. I need to subdue the person. It's like, well, you can subdue them by talking to them. You don't need to get your bat out and start battling them in the kneecaps in order to get them on the floor. Talk to them. Most people are...
People want to just be listened to.
Exactly, that's the thing. If somebody is hurting, if somebody is dysregulated in their mind, they just want to be heard. They're feeling not seen and not heard 90% of the time. So see them and hear them.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you'll see wonders. It's the same with children. How many times do you see, parents with a kid that's having a breakdown in the supermarket, having thrown a full-on tantrum in the aisle, and they're dragging them and get out here, blah, blah, blah. It's like you're meeting anger with anger.
Makes no sense.
Why not figure out what's happening right now? What are you feeling? Are you overstimulated by this thing? Are you upset because we didn't buy the 20-foot teddy bear? What's going on? Talk to them. You meeting anger with anger is just going to react in more anger and more chaos,
more frustration.
Yeah, your child is not feeling listened to or heard 9 times out of 10, and you can diffuse that whole situation by seeing them and hearing them.
Yeah,
which I get is very hard to say, because we know that kids can be like, daddy, 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 daddy every 10 seconds, and you're like, my God, how many times do I have to hear this today? And it's, I get it. Like, parent fatigue is a real thing. But in those moments, like, what you're seeing is nobody wants to have a tantrum. Nobody chooses to have a full-on breakdown because it's fun. It's because they're going through a moment emotionally dysregulated, and they need somebody to co-regulate with them to bring them back to what I would call like a ventral state, where you're social and safe. In that moment where kids are going full on crazy, they're sympathetic, they're fight or flight, and they don't know what to do because they're kids.
Yeah.
And then those kids that don't learn that safety comes carry on those behaviors as an adult because that's all they know. It's their nervous system trying to keep them safe.
Keep them safe, yeah. Yeah, man. Love this combo. Yeah, man. Literally, there's some gems that you just put out in this podcast, this video, and I'm just like, rah.
This has literally been 2 years worth of raw moments for me as well, because I'm like, this makes so much sense. Like, why does nobody know about this? Why is nobody talking about this? And don't get me wrong, there are very good trauma coaches and therapists, thought leaders out there who are saying this stuff. But when you look at the bigger picture of the real world, and even like workplaces and stuff like that, it's the same thing. Like, you've got an employee that's not pulling the weight. It's not because he's incapable of the job. It's because something's not right, and he doesn't know how to express that. So create safety. That's the key word for everything that I do. Safety. Like, when people feel safe, they feel heard and listened to, and they feel it's a safe place for them to be heard and listened to. That's when they feel that they can tell you what's really going on. And for a lot of people, sadly, in the world right now, they're not safe anywhere. They're not safe at home. They're not safe at work. They're not safe in relationships. All these places where you're supposed to be safe, you don't feel emotionally safe. And that's, you might be physically safe. Like, you might be in a relationship where, nobody's hitting you. But what if nobody's listening to you? What if somebody's constantly putting you down, calling you names?
It's not good for your mind.
Emotional, mental safety. Like, the mind-body connection is real. Like, you can't have a healthy mind without a healthy body, and vice versa. So
I know your routine is different. Times you wake up, times you go to sleep, all of that stuff. But what would you recommend for someone, or just like, not even recommend / like a perspective that you feel like people should have for their bodies? Or like, you wake up at a specific time, you go to bed at a specific time. My perspective is, sometimes I go and run, and that gives me my mind, then it just feels better after I've done a run or I've done some physical education, because I've got endorphins running through my body. Sometimes I can stay through the night and then I just wake up later on in the day, or sometimes I just don't have a fully structured mad routine. But what would you recommend to someone that's like, I probably do need some routine, or what can I do to help with my mental health? That's my mind, body, and soul. And like, what could you recommend to people? Like,
yeah, I think it's a great question, and it's one which is very personal to the individual. Because like I said, like, I realized very early on in my 20s that I don't suit the 9 to 5 environment, because I'm not a morning person. Like, I don't do my best work in the morning. So if I'm not really getting going until like 11 a.m., you've got very little out of me for the first 2 hours of the working day. But then come like 8, 9 o'clock, maybe even like 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, I'm wired. I'm like, that's when I'll do my best stuff.
Literally, I'm the same.
Yeah,
Literally.
I'm a night person. So being aware of where you work best is very important. I think right now we're obviously still living in times of coronavirus, and I do think that's going to change a lot of work perspectives for a lot of people. A lot of businesses have been forced to let people work from home, and a lot of businesses have seen no drop in productivity, which shows that they don't need a manager looking over the shoulder every 2 minutes. So what you're actually doing with that, you're trusting your employees to work when suits them best. As long as they get the job done, then, you know, there's no harm. If he's laying in till 10 in the morning, but then staying up till 9 o'clock at night and doing his work because that's when he wants to work best, maybe that works around his schedule with kids, with partner, with whatever, then that's great. So I think having an awareness about who you are as a person is key. I do think routine helps a lot of people. Otherwise, you run the risk of getting a little bit lost. And you have all these things running around your head like, oh, I need to do this and this and this, but when should I do that? And you just waste time trying to plan it out. Whereas, like, if you get into a routine, you're like, okay, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to have breakfast, I'm going to go for a run, and then I'm going to get back, have a shower, do a meditation, and then I'm going to turn the computer on. You know, if you know that, you know, firstly, exercise is proven to be great for the mind. Like you said, it releases endorphins, releases serotonin, dopamine, all those great things. You feel energized, you're going to have a shower, the shower's going to wake you up even more, you're going to feel fresh. You're in a great place mentally to then do work.
Yeah.
You know, if you roll out of bed at 5 to 9, turn the computer on and looking at emails with sort of one eye open, you're not really in the same frame of mind. So figuring out what works best for you is key. I mean, there's so many different things that work for different people. Like, I'm a huge advocate of meditation, mindfulness, and even just like mindfulness walking for me, that was a huge thing. Like, I would go, I would plan like an hour in my day, and it was usually around my lunch hour where I'd be like out of the office and I'd just go for a walk for an hour. I'd either stick on like a guided meditation or like a mindfulness thing that would just be like, okay, now focus on what you can hear. And it'd be like birds tweeting or like the river running past or whatever it may be. And just getting, you know, bringing you back to the present moment is huge for a lot of people because life can be stressful. You know, you constantly are worried about, oh, you know, I hope Derek didn't take that the wrong way, what I said to him last week in that meeting, you know, or then you're thinking like, oh, I've got that presentation due for Friday. How's that going to look? And you spend your entire life, mental capacity is worrying about things that have already happened or things that haven't happened yet, neither of which you can do anything about anymore. Yeah. All you're in control of is where you are right now in the present. And I think that for me was huge. Like, bringing back to present, being aware of where you are in the world, being aware of how small you are in the world, how little you matter to a lot of people is also very humbling. And you feel much less scared of messing up because actually like, well, the world's still going to carry on. And if I mess up, then at least I'm trying, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, meditation's great. I mean, I'm a big advocate of Kundalini yoga. That worked well for me, but some people don't like it. So that's all down to personal preference at the end of the day. But I think being present, finding some time for meditation, whatever that looks like to you, like you don't have to be a monk. You don't have to go and sit in silence for 3 hours a day. You can literally spend 10 minutes on your own in quiet and it will do wonders for your mind. Even breathing, like I know you've done some Wim Hof stuff before. Yeah. Wim Hof's a legend. But even just, you know, focused breathing is huge. And it's all about just bringing yourself back to present. Like, again, if you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, any of those sorts of feelings, it's because you're focusing on the past or the future. Yeah. Bring yourself back to the present. Like right now, what can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? What can I touch? And how am I right now? Like, do a check-in with your body. Like, what am I feeling right now? Am I feeling good? Am I feeling relaxed? Am I feeling anxious? Yeah, I feel anxiety. Well, where am I feeling it? It's in my chest. Why am I feeling it? What's causing that anxiety? This random thing. Can I do anything about that right now? No. Well, I'm going to let it go then because it doesn't serve me right now. And that takes practice. That's a lot easier said than done. But you can get there. So routine is huge, but I think self-care is probably what I'd focus on more because routines can change. Life can change. Like, I know that Tuesday I've got a meeting at 10 a.m. I'm usually still in bed at 10 a.m. So, you know, I'm going to have to get up a little bit earlier to do the meeting, which is fine. But, you know, I just then know that after the meeting, I'll probably go for a walk for an hour and make the most of being awake early. And that night, I'll probably go to bed earlier. So it's just being flexible, but making time for self-care, whatever that looks like to you. Like, being selfish has a lot of bad connotations to it, and actually being selfish is one of the kindest things that you can do for yourself. Yeah. In the right way. In the right way. Don't be a dick. but still, you can be selfish. You can look after yourself.
Look after yourself.
You can't look after others unless you're looking after yourself first.
Yeah, and that's what I've been learning more and more about that. Where before it's just like, you know what, you will help everyone and deplete your whole energy for everyone else, and then you've got nothing for yourself, and you just feel down, and you're just like, you know what, life's a bit shit right now. But the reality is, if you gave back to yourself, you can do so much more, and you're gonna feel way more energized and stuff, man.
It's like the question that I ask a lot of people is like, when do you feel at your happiest?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will say some people make jokey answers, which is great. If they're making jokey answers, then they're in a pretty good space. But if they say, most people make a comment which alludes to some way of doing something for others, and that's not a surprise. Like, again, you look at all the major thought leaders in the world, or like the monks and those people, like, they dedicate their lives to acts of service, acts of service for others. But they are also very aware that in order for others to get their best, they need to be at their best. So if you want to be doing good in the world, if you want to feel your happiest, and you want to be, in whatever way that is of helping other people, you also need to be helping yourself as well.
Yeah.
And because people deserve you at your best.
Yeah.
And that means that you're going to have to look after yourself.
Real talk.
Yeah.
Real talk. Dave, I fucking love you, mate.
I love you too, buddy.
Sometimes, like, when you said the same things before, and when you know it, but like, it just kind of reinforces this to me. But I know it's going to resonate with a lot of other people that are going to listen to this as well and watch this. And I just think, more people obviously need to kind of really focus on themselves and realize that, use their mental energy. Your mental is a muscle as well, and you've got to train it, look after it, and then you're going to feel better. I've always been a positive person anyway, but sometimes you can forget about yourself, end up working so much that you forget about yourself, but really it's you that's bringing that energy, and if you don't exist, you can't do things. So yeah, man, you always make me think.
I'm glad to hear that, bro, because I mean, going back to safety is for anybody who is feeling in whatever way dysregulated that they are, safety is the key. That is going to be maybe the most important thing in their recovery. Like, there's so many different modalities out there. You've got CBT, EMDR, hypnotherapy, psychodynamic therapy, all these different types of therapies out there. There's loads. There's more letters than I can remember. But there's not one. The reason that there isn't one, because there's not just one that works.
Nah.
I can find, and I've spoken to loads of people who've tried all these different therapies, and some people love certain types and some people hate certain types.
Mm-hmm.
The one constant between whenever I speak to anybody who's done any kind of therapy, any type of counseling, is they had safety with the practitioner.
Yeah.
That is the key. It's almost irrelevant what modality they're using, what technique that they're using.
Mm-hmm.
When you have safety with that person, that's what enables you to do the work, to heal, to get to the root cause, and to work through that in safety with someone else. Because the thing is, you need that other person. If you could get out of it on your own, you would have done. But when you've got your head telling you things which aren't true, you can't get out of that state.
Yeah.
Because your body's trying to keep you safe. You need somebody else to sit with you and be like, hey, have you ever thought about it this way? Or have you thought about how maybe this thing is actually, do you want to talk about that and let's deal with that issue? That's how we're going to get through that. So safety is important for sure, but it's the other part of any type of recovery of mental health is also having that sort of resilience, that sort of awareness which comes over time. Like you said, it's, for me, it sounds like makes it sound like I'm saying all these things and it sounds really easy. It's not easy.
Nah, it takes time.
I'm saying these things because I've done it. you know, I've been through it, and it's a large part of what I do now. And it is, you know, you have to basically retrain your nervous system, and that's a large part of, again, the work that I do with trauma is to, again, create safety with people, to give them a safe place to talk about this, and then to reframe whatever it is that they've been through, and then, like I said, create good habits so that they then can self-regulate. They don't need somebody else anymore, which is what I do. Like, I've not needed to see like a therapist in a long time. I don't get me wrong, I have coaches and mentors and things who I can talk to things about, and we can go over these things, but that's more of me learning now, and me trying these new different things which I think will work for me or work for other people that I know. Like, again, for me, a lot of people find it weird, but like gong healing, like sound frequency healing, massive. Like, for me, I'm a big fan of somatic stuff, which is basically in the body. So again, acupuncture was great. Sound frequency, gong healing, gong spas, gong baths, whatever you want to call it. I feel that, and it energizes me. And Kundalini yoga is the same. It's very much in the body. It's the chakras. It's the alignment of the energy. And for whatever reason, that just resonates with me. But other people who are very much in the head, they don't quite get that. Like, they're not ready for that yet. Or they're just not attuned to whatever that is. That's fine. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. It just means that's not for them. But that's the thing, is like, get curious with it. Like, there's so many different things out there, and I say this a lot, is like, when you're going through whatever mental thing you're going through, if it feels like you're at rock bottom, what have you got to lose? Like, rock bottom's actually a good place to be, because it gives you a good foundation to build from. You can't build whilst you're still falling.
Definitely 100%. One of the books that has really helped me is Chimp Paradox. Genuinely one book that it's been amazing for me over last year and this year, the start of this year, and the words in them, just like the audio book itself, just really kind of shifted my perspective and kind of broke things down, how I'm feeling and what part of my brain I'm using and stuff like that. I'd highly recommend getting that book. I'm going to put that into the description as well. Yeah, man.
I mean, one of the best books I read was Lost Connections by Joe Hari. That's a great book for me. That really talks a lot about antidepressants and depression in general. He makes I don't want to steal it, but he makes a fantastic. He tells a fantastic story in that book about how in Cambodia a tribe thought an antidepressant was a cow. You look confused. I'll tell the story very quickly because it's fantastic. So Cambodia obviously has a horrendous history. The killing fields and everything else that went on there with the genocide and everything else. So they have a very young population. But they also have a lot of mines, a lot of, bombs that are undetonated, scattered around the place. And there was I think he was a wheat farmer. And one day he was out in the field and got a leg blown off by a mine. And he was okay, but he obviously lost a leg. And then he wasn't able to work in the wheat field anymore. And he became depressed. So the village came together and sort of sat together and was like, well, what are we going to do with, let's call him Barry. He's definitely not called Barry. But what are we going to do with Barry? He's depressed. What are we going to do? And the whole village chipped in and bought him a cow. Because now he could be a dairy farmer. So now he can make milk. He doesn't need to walk around the field anymore. He can literally sit next to his cow, make milk, and that was Barry's antidepressant, because Barry was depressed because he didn't have a purpose. You'd taken his purpose away, and now what's he living for? Well, for Barry, an antidepressant is a cow. And that's the huge thing as well. Like, safety is one thing. Purpose is, like, safety gets you out of the bad spot, but purpose is the thing which keeps you going in the right direction.
Of course, 100%.
You'll know this as I'm not generalizing this. Women have purpose too, but traditionally for men, as the breadwinners and that whole narrative of being, the protectors, the providers. We needed a purpose. Our purpose was to keep the wife and kids happy, to feed them, to provide for them. And all of a sudden, when you take that away from a man, you take his job away, you take his career away, what's he left with? That's why I think women have traditionally, and again, I understand it's not right now, and it's great, like women are in the workplace and should be treated equally. I'm totally on board with that. But going back like 50 years, women were traditionally in the home looking after the kids, and that was their purpose. So when you have a purpose, it's proven, like the scientific studies out there, people who acknowledge that they have a purpose or feel that they have a purpose in life, on average, you live 10 years longer than those who don't.
Yeah.
And that's not a magic thing about having a purpose. That's because the decisions that you make when you have a purpose mean that you lead a healthier life and more mentally regulated and everything else. So, like I said, for me right now, my purpose with trying to end this issue that we have with mental health stigma and bring more trauma-informed people to the world, that is what gets me up in the morning. That's what gets me excited to try and help people, to help the world, be of service. And I think that's what a lot of people with depression struggle with. Like, they don't have a purpose.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, when we can get them out of that place and then reconnect them with a purpose, that's really powerful stuff.
Definitely.
And that's a lot of the work that I do with a lot of people as well. So it is important stuff. And like I said, purpose is proven to allow people to live longer lives.
100%, bro. 100%, man. You open up so much different thoughts in your mind.
But I know that, we were only chatting about this a few weeks ago, that you felt, with everything that was going on in the world right now, that you had a renewed purpose, a renewed hunger to be authentic and to tell your story.
Yeah.
That's powerful, man. Like, I asked you before we started this, how have you been feeling this week? And you're like, I'm feeling amazing.
I'm feeling great, bro. I'm feeling real good, to be honest.
Because guess what? You're aligned with a purpose right now. And that's awesome.
Literally. Because sometimes I've worked, and then you're just like working on, why the hell am I working?
Exactly. Me and you have been down a similar path, bro, where we're like, we get stuck in the rut of work, because this is what we're told we should do as men.
Yeah.
We have to hustle and grind, and everything's going to be hard and fight the system. And it doesn't have to be that way, man.
Yeah, real talk, man. Bro, I want to make sure that all the listeners and watchers, all the viewers, can get in contact with you. Obviously, I'm going to put some deets in the bio or the description, but I just want people to be able to connect with you, speak with you, get some guidance from you, just anything that you've got. I just want people to connect with you, because you've been a massive help to me, and I want you to be a massive help to them.
Well, I really appreciate that. I really do. The best place to connect with me is probably Instagram. That's where I'm most sort of active. At the Dave Furness is all one word. I try and post weekly or sort of daily content on there. I tend to take the weekends off. But yeah, I try and put inspirational, thought-provoking things, helpful things on there. So again, please, if you've got any questions, reach out in the DMs. Ask me any questions you have there. I also have the Let's Talk Mental Health podcast, where again Theo's been a guest 3 times now.
Yeah,
he's in the leading spot of people who've been on the podcast the most. So that is just called Let's Talk Mental Health. Again, all the links to that are in my bio on Instagram, but it's on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and a few other places.
Yeah. Can you send me those links? Send me those
absolutely,
links.
I'll
put them in there so everyone can get in touch with you, watch your
awesome
stuff.
And then also I've got my own website, which is just davefurness.com. You can find out more about the trauma coaching stuff that I do one-on-one. You can get in touch there, give me a little bit more detail. We can book a free call. We can find out if I can work with you, if you like me, if we can generally have that safety connection. And I can hopefully get you, help you get through whatever traumas are keeping you stuck in life and reconnect you with your purpose.
Cool. Dave Furness, I want to say thank you so much for being on this podcast, for being on this call, for being with me, helping me. And now through this, people are going to listen and hopefully change their perspectives and probably take some action, or probably get in contact with you, or just do something that's going to better them.
I hope so, mate. I just want to say thank you to you as well, mate. I know we've been through a lot together in life.
Literally.
And it's just a pleasure to see you, what you've been doing, how you've constantly, you've been an inspiration to me, man, in everything that you've done. You've just always executed, which is what a lot of people don't do. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on and getting to share the thing that I'm passionate about with people. And yeah, for anyone who's listening to this, I guess my final message is don't suffer alone. no matter what your brain is telling you in that moment, please, like, again, my DMs are always open. Reach out. Don't, like I said, don't suffer alone. You're not alone. There's people who've been there before you, and there's people who've got through it as well. So you have hope. There's always hope. Don't think that there isn't, and don't suffer. We can get you through this, I promise.
Amazing. I can't wait to start banging this video together now, to be honest, and upload it real soon. I've got one of the hoodies that I did the other day. I'm gonna send one to you, bro.
Oh man, love it.
I'm gonna send one to you, definitely.
I appreciate that, bro.
Anyway, guys, I want to say thank you very much for listening and watching, and please get in contact with Dave Furness if you want to listen to this video or this podcast, or watch the video. It's on the YouTube channel. You're probably watching it now, but it's also going to be on Spotify and iTunes. And when you're out and about, living life, doing what you're doing, just tune in, listen to some great words of wisdom from people that are actually living it and doing it. Anyway, guys, I'll see you soon. Take care and peace.
Bye, guys.